All right, thank you everyone for attending. I'm going to read the procedural rule for virtual meetings. All microphones should be muted unless you are speaking. All web cameras are to remain on. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand. If there is a service interruption that affects quorum, we will take a 15-minute recess to establish quorum. If quorum cannot be established, the meeting will not continue. Annette, could you do the roll call, please?
I will. Barbara Sutherland.
Here.
Carrie Korfman.
Here.
Dwight Rose.
Here.
Anne Marie Boak.
She's here.
I think.
Here.
Oh, there she is. Karen Towler.
Here.
Bill Keeley.
Present.
And Councillor Wall.
Present.
Perfect.
Thank you. Move on to number 2 on the agenda, the approval of the agenda. May I have a motion to approve?
Go.
Bill Keeley, may I have a seconder?
Aye.
Dwight, thank you. I'm sorry, my screen is partially blocked because I'm still waiting for participants to come in. All right, and all in favor of the agenda? Thank you, approved. All right, declarations of conflict of interest. Anyone? Seeing none, we'll move on to our first.
Sorry, Barb.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, Karen declared a conflict.
Oh, did you, Karen? No, she did not.
Nope. No, I didn't. I'm sorry. My arm just went in front of the screen. I apologize.
That's quite all right. All right, we'll move on to number 4 and we'll welcome Hillary Miles from Brantford Police Service. Hillary has a presentation regarding public offenders. Go ahead, Hillary.
So everybody has a copy of it. Is that how we're going to do it? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be discussing, I know a couple of you have already seen this. It will be exactly the same as the last one I did. I'm going to be discussing prolific offenders who are currently out on multiple forms of release. So the method we used in obtaining these names, Chief Davis reached out to the staff sergeants of each of our 5 platoons at Brantford Police and asked them to give us names of the individuals that they deal with most frequently. From that, we received 30 names, no overlaps for many of the platoons, which was quite interesting. A few of the most of the names I was aware of, a few of them I wasn't as familiar with. So in looking at them, though we had dealt with them a few times recently, it wasn't enough to include them in this report. So I narrowed it down to 23. From that 23, I've derived the top 10 most prolific offenders. So that's what I'll discuss today. So basically the crime types we were looking at, property crimes, frauds, drugs, basically just general overall frequent calls for service. So for the forms of release, there are 3 forms of release an individual can be given after committing an offense. A Form 9 is an appearance notice. The accused is given a document by the officer that states a date and time that they have to come to court and for fingerprints. Form 10 is a police undertaking similar to the Form 9, only the officer can put the individual on conditions. So don't attend this address, don't talk to this person, et cetera, et cetera. And then the Form 10 release order is recognizance. It's given to the accused in conjunction with an undertaking, also includes conditions on which by which they must abide. And it's given by a justice of the peace once we've held them in custody, so upon their release. So I can't give any identifiers for these individuals. I won't be giving any names. I can tell you their ages, their genders, that type of information, but no names or addresses or anything like that. Okay, so criminal profile number 1 is a 44-year-old male offender who's known to be violent, and he is currently of no fixed address. So we most frequently deal with him in relation to break-and enters, frauds, drugs, domestic disputes, thefts, unwanted person calls for service, disputes, and suspicious persons. He currently has 25 outstanding charges, and he is on 11 forms of release. They include all types of forms, 9, 10, and 11. 2 of those have been issued to him since March 16th of this year. He has 80 criminal code charges on file with us and 10 charges in relation to drugs. And if you have any questions, by all means, just stop me. So criminal profile number 2 is a 36-year-old male offender who's known to be violent. We also note that he does hate police, so he can be confrontational, and he is currently of no fixed address. We deal with him most frequently in regards to break and enters, frauds, domestic disputes, unwanted person calls for service, suspicious person calls for service, and thefts. He has 73 outstanding charges with us, and he is on 10 forms of release currently, 9 of which have been issued to him since March 16th of this year, and they are all Form 10s. He has 193 charges on file with us and no drug charges. Criminal profile number 3 is a 34-year-old male offender who has a fixed address. He's most known for assaults, property damage, disputes, and unwanted person calls for service. He currently has 13 outstanding charges with us and is on 9 current forms of release, 7 of which have been issued since March 16th of this year, and they include Form 10 and Form 11s. He has 14 criminal code charges on file with us and no drug-related charges. Number 4 is a 29-year-old male offender who is known to be violent, and he is also currently of no fixed address. He is most commonly dealt with in regards to assaults, drugs, break and enters, property damage, domestic disputes, unwanted persons, and theft calls. He has 18 outstanding charges with us, and he is currently on 7 forms of release, all of which have been issued to him since March 16th of this year. They are Form 10 and Form 11s. He has 95 criminal code charges on file with us and 8 drug-related charges. Okay, number 5, if I can get my paper to cooperate. Number 5 is a 31-year-old male offender who is known to carry weapons, specifically knives, in relation to the robberies that he's committed. And he currently has a home address. So like I noted, we've dealt with him in regards to robberies. He's also known to commit property damage, unwanted person calls for service, suspicious person calls for service, and thefts. He has 22 current charges outstanding with us and is on 6 forms of release currently, 2 of which have been issued to him since March 16th of this year, and they are Form 10s and Form 11s. He has 26 criminal code charges with us and no drug-related charges. Number 6 is a 32-year-old male offender who is known to be violent and carry weapons, and he currently has a fixed address. So we deal with him most frequently in relation to break and enters, property damage, drugs, domestic disputes, and thefts. He has 24 current charges outstanding with us and is on 5 forms of release, none of which, sorry if you can hear my dogs barking in the background, somebody's barely out front. So he's on 5 current forms of release, none of which have been issued since March of this year. But the current forms he's on are 9s, 10s, and 11s. He has 30 criminal code charges on file with us and 3 drug-related charges. Number 7 is the only minor in this group of 10. He's 17 years old. He's known to be violent and to carry weapons, and he does currently have a fixed address. So we've dealt with him in relation to sexual assaults, and weapons-related charges. He has, sorry, my dogs. He has 11 charges outstanding with us and is on 4 current forms of release, all of which have been issued to him since March 16th of this year. He has 12 criminal code charges on file with us and no drug-related charges. Number 8 is a 21-year-old female offender who is known to be violent. She does have a home address. I should note it is not a Brantford address. She does live in a neighboring jurisdiction. So she most frequently is involved in motor vehicle thefts, drugs, and domestic disputes. She has 8 current outstanding charges with us and is on 4 current forms of release, all of which have been issued to her since March 16th of this year, and they are Form 10 and Form 11s. She has 7 criminal code charges on file with us and 5 drug-related charges. Number 9 is a 31-year-old male offender who is known to be violent and carry weapons, and he is currently of a fixed address. He's most known for frauds, drugs, thefts, suspicious person calls for service, as well as domestic disputes. He currently has 7 outstanding charges with us and has been issued 4 current forms of release, all since March 16th of this year, and they include Form 10s and Form 11s. He has 104 criminal code charges with us and 10 drug-related charges. And then our final one is a 37-year-old male offender who is known to be violent and does have a home address. We most commonly deal with him in relation to threatening calls for service, assaults, robberies, break-and-enters, and thefts. He has 26 outstanding charges with us currently and is on 3 forms of release, all of which have been issued since March 16th of this year. They are all Form 11s. He has 118 criminal code charges with us and 2 drug-related charges. So that's our top 10 most prolific offenders.
Thank you, Hillary.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Annette.
I was just wondering what happened before March 16th. So if these people would have been arrested, what would have happened? What was different?
What was different was the courts allowed us to still hold people in custody. So their main concern was that COVID was going to run rampant in the jails if we started holding people in the facilities. So then they requested that we release them on forms. So, I mean, prior to that, we still released individuals on forms, but it depended on the severity of the crimes that they committed, which it still does. For the more severe crimes, we will hold them, but the courts have just asked us to release them when possible. And Chief Davis is here, so he can touch upon that as well.
Right. If I could just ask you to hold your questions for a moment, and Chief Davis, if you would like to say a few words, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Hillary, for your presentation. I know Councillor Wall, you've seen this before. So why I brought this forward is I hear repeatedly from citizens, from membership of the DBBIA about what are the police doing, or the suggestion that we're not doing anything. We're frustrated. We are absolutely frustrated. And this was looking at sort of that, the mayor used to use the term petty crime. I don't like that term, but this is your theft under 5,000, your fraud under 5,000, your mischief under 5,000, those types of crimes where we're feeling frustration. And to Annette's point, so we had a perfect storm happen here. At about this time last year, we were told by the Attorney General's office that Bill C-75 had come into effect, which was bail reform. And I encourage you to Google Bill C-75 to see what bail reform entailed. But in short, all considerations for release have to be considered before a person's detained. To put it in layman's terms, the rights of the offender now became number one, facilitating their release from custody. And so, as Hillary spoke to, we have a Form 9, which the police can issue at the side of the road, a Form 10, which we issue with conditions. But if you're out on an offense, so let's use break and enter or theft under 5,000. So if you were out on a Form 9 or a Form 10, but you commit that same offense, it's now a reverse onus situation under Section 515 of the Criminal Code, which means the police, we hold the offender to go in front of a justice of the peace, and it's up to the offender and their legal counsel to explain why they should be released. Prior to Bill C-75, we typically would see people released. Bill C-75 was introduced last year about this time. It was just starting to roll out, and then COVID hit. So we were seeing very early on in 2020 that it was being interpreted, or my observation, and I have to stress here so I don't get myself in trouble. In no way am I trying to interfere with judicial independence. The judicial independence is there for a reason. And in no way am I being critical of any of the justices of the peace or the courts. I'm pointing out the observations we saw as the Brantford Police Service is that offenders seem to be, their right to release was being the number one consideration, and not those aspects of Section 515 of the Criminal Code, which are still the same. If it's a reverse onus, likelihood to reoffend, repetition of the offense, public safety, and the big one I'm very concerned about is if it causes the reputation of the administration of justice to come into disrepute, or people start to lose faith in the justice system. You all heard about the discussions in Eagle Place, where there's a community group that wants to work with the police. But there's also a group that says, you know what, we've had enough of the police and the courts, we'll take it into our own hands. And so that's very alarming to me, is that if it's not addressed, we may drift towards vigilantism. And so I've been doing this presentation, and I wanted to make sure that this group heard, because you see it. You see people there, and I hear it, that we're not doing anything. We are doing a lot. The officers, the men and women of the Brantford Police Service are working incredibly hard, but we're banging our head against a wall. We arrest somebody, we have to release until they're in that reoffend, and then when we do hold for the Section 11, where they're in front of the Justice of the Peace, bail reform was causing a release. And then March 16th, when the state of emergency was declared, we saw that the courts did not want to have them in the courtroom. And we saw that there was a reluctance to send any of the people to Maplehurst Correctional to be held until they had their trial. As we sit here now, 9 months after the start of the pandemic, the fear that we heard in March that there'll be mass outbreaks of COVID in the jails and people will die, we're not seeing it, or at least it's not being reported. If it is happening, it's being hidden, because I'm not seeing it on the news when I watch the news out of Toronto, Hamilton, Kitchener. And so all these fears that the poor offender will go to Maplehurst, catch COVID and die have not played out. And so I presented this to the Police Services Board. Mayor Davis and Councillor Martin asked that we present it to council. We've presented it to council. I've asked the mayor if he would take this to the big city mayors as an issue, because when I talk to policing colleagues around the province, we're not alone in this. And I have also asked that the Police Services Board consider taking it to be a topic for the Ontario Association of Police Services Board. So I brought this to you to let you know that we're trying hard, but we are incredibly frustrated. Like you look at some of the slides that Hillary showed you, the one fellow that had over 100 charges, I dealt with him personally. I was part of his arrest at a local grocery store. He had a stack of stolen credit cards. And so you think of how many cars has he gone through to break into to get those, how many purses, wallets, you name it. And if you've ever lived through that, the pain of having, it's just a pain in the butt, because you have to cancel your card, you have to go get a new license, you have to get a new health card, all of those things. And then who knows if he's entrepreneurial enough or she's entrepreneurial enough to sell those to organized crime for identity theft. So this is where the frustration is there seems to be the rights of the victim are completely forgotten. It appears to be that the Section 515 of the Criminal Code is being overlooked. And the other part of it is I'm concerned that the citizens and groups like yourself will lose faith in the administration of justice, and we may see people take matters into their own hands. And then the other part is that COVID's compounded it. So I'm not sure if this group belongs to a provincial association, if other downtowns are experiencing this. When I talk to some of my colleagues, I hear they are. But if there's any way to make this a topic at a provincial or regional level, or to take forward to our local MPP for consideration at this Attorney General and Solicitor General's office, that would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Chief Davis. That was very informational. Thank you. The BIA has discussed taking this forward to our provincial body, the OBIAA, and we'll do what we can for you. I can tell you that. Any questions of Chief Davis? Well, he's here. Looks like you got the message across, Dave. Oh, I'm sorry. Dwight, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment. I think the police department's doing a wonderful job under the circumstances. And I've known for a long time their hands have been tied by the judicial system here with everything coming forward. And I totally agree with what Chief Robert Davis is saying here. So yeah, the rights of the victim are being forgotten, and these perpetrators under this, I don't know if it's under the guise of this COVID stuff, but it's got to change. That's for sure here, or people will lose faith in the system period here and take things into their own hands. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Dwight. Carrie?
Yes, sorry, thank you, Chief Davis. I was just wondering, I know the city will be pursuing this farther and possibly the police board, but I was wondering if you as a chief has any power to directly petition to bring these matters forward to our MPP or the Attorney General, whoever.
I've had a discussion. I've had a discussion with our local MPP. I have to be careful though, because I cannot be seen that the police are trying to interfere with that judicial independence. So what I'm doing is I'm reporting observations to groups like yourself, the police board, the city council, because I have to walk a very fine line that and again, I have to stress, I am not trying to interfere with judicial independence. I am not trying to say the police should run the process. I am not trying to be critical of any specific judges or justice of the peace. And really the judges are the non-issue here. It's the justice of the peace justices of the peace that we're dealing with when we hold people for remand. But I have to walk a very fine line. So as much as I'd love to, my job is to report the observations and data from Brantford with Hillary's assistance, and then hope that others will take the cause.
That's good. We appreciate you bringing the report forward. I think it opened a lot of people's eyes, and I think it's made us realize that we've become the victims in this rather than what it was supposed to be the other way around, protecting the prisoners while they're protecting the prisoners at our expense. So I think they need to realize that. Thanks.
And just one other comment is I fully expect that there will be some, as I said, I've given this presentation a few times, and there will be some that will say, well, see, you have 23 people and they may be battling addiction. You have to tackle the root causes. And I don't dispute that. I agree that the root causes have to be tackled, but that's not done in isolation and in ignorance of holding people accountable for the crimes they're committing. I think the two can live parallel, and that one doesn't have to live in isolation from the other, because if we focus just on the root causes and still allow people to get away with crimes and not be held accountable, then again, my fear is that the people will lose faith in the justice system and take matters into their own hands.
Any further questions of Chief Davis or Hillary? Seeing none, I'm going to thank both of you very much for attending this morning. Thank you for all that you do in the city, and you do have our support. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, we'll move on to our consent items. Number 5, we're going to ask for approval of the minutes of the November 12th Board of Management meeting. And I'm going to combine that with the receiving the report of the staff report for November and December. Could I have a mover,
Yeah.
Dwight, and second, Bill? Thank you. All in favor? Yes, thank you. Carried. Thank you. All right, number 6, items for consideration. So we've already covered prolific offenders, unless anyone else has anything to say about that. Any further comments? No? Oh, go ahead, Councillor Wall.
So it was kind of touched upon about having somebody speak to the MPP. So do we want to have that conversation? Do we want to nominate somebody from this committee to go and do that on behalf of the BIA?
Carrie has a comment.
I did email the MPP about the matter and got pretty much a form letter in response. I was not happy. He didn't deal with the issue at all, just replied with an explanation of what the situation is. So I was going to follow up further with that email, so I can continue that if you like. I also think I know I had Annette contact the old BIA, and they had said, I think Annette, you can clarify, but I think they kind of said they have lots of other issues on their plate. But I think maybe we should try to contact them again and and see if we can get them moving on this as well.
Okay.
Annette, did you,
I'm sorry, Carrie?
I was just asking Annette exactly what they had said, just to clarify I was right.
I sent them a copy of that report. I included the copy of the newspaper article and was told pretty well we'll add it to the list. They're dealing with a lot of COVID related things right now, so that seemed to be their priority, but I can ask them again to make sure that this is on their agenda.
Okay, good idea.
Anyone else in discussion? I'm going to suggest that we take this to our executive to do something formal from the BIA.
Sounds good.
All right. So seeing no further discussion, social behavior in the downtown, are there any comments on that? This is going to be a constant line item in our agenda.
What can you do if the police won't do anything and everybody's turning a blind eye? I think we should all be like Eagle Place and everybody bring out their own hammers. I'm not downtown anymore though.
All right, point of order.
Thank you, Councillor Wall. All right. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to 6.3. And Councillor Wall, would you speak to us about the Lucy Marco Isolation Center?
Sure. I want to caveat. So I wasn't a part of the decision-making process for this, and this wasn't a council decision. So I'm just kind of providing what I'm aware of. So we obviously run a shelter system or help with the shelter system here in the city. And because of COVID-19, there has to be a place, or there very much should be a place, where if somebody was at a higher risk because of, a compromised immune system, or, if they're in the higher risk categories for COVID-19, that they would have a safe place to be able to isolate. So with funding from the province through the Ontario Social Services Relief Funding, which you can read all about in the press release that Maria sent out if you want to dive deeper into it, they were able to open up beds in the Lucy Marco building downtown, which is traditionally a Laurier student residence that is sitting vacant. And I can't speak to the procedures that are going in there, but I do trust that, they do have, sanitation in place, as well as, proper procedures to take care of people who are there. I've received an increasing number of phone calls and questions about it, which I have directed to the proper people, but I haven't seen or heard anything negative about it. There were some concerns originally from the people who live in the building, but it's very much separate. And, again, I trust that they're doing everything that they can to keep everybody safe and that there isn't any risk to anybody. There is a press release on the City of Brantford's website. I think Annette has forwarded it to you all. So if you have any particular questions that weren't addressed, you can always contact me directly and I will connect you by email, or you can reach out directly to the organization that's running it. I think that's about it. The idea is to basically, I think it's summed up pretty well in the release, but it is our responsibility to ensure the safety. And in doing so, we are protecting the community at large by reducing the risk of additional community spread. Because if you have a traditional shelter system, it's a pretty confined space. And, if somebody is exhibiting symptoms or is at a higher risk, we're just trying to take care of people. And this was a great option that was put forward with funding from the province. So I think that's all I've got. I apologize if that's not as wholesome or fulsome of an update as you'd like.
No, that was fine, Councillor Wall. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of Councillor Wall? Carrie and then Dwight. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Wall, I was just wondering if so there will be 24-hour supervision at the building, will there?
I don't have that answer. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I believe that there are staff there at all times. I don't think it's just, I think it's a 24-hour site.
Okay, I just had concerns just about people coming and going if they're
Mhm.
supposed to be quarantined. I know sometimes the quarantine is a hard thing to understand for some people. So the importance of it. So I just wanted to make sure. So,
Of course.
okay, thanks.
Dwight had a question.
My question is much along the same lines about that, and I guess Councillor Wall won't be able to answer most of that, whether these people will be, isolated or whether they have visitors or, the comings and goings here. We don't want to, we want to look after people and keep them safe, but they got to keep themselves safe too. And we don't want to infect the downtown corridor area as well with things going on. So I guess we'll just have to see how this plays out, so to speak, with it. But whether there's any control over it and who's ultimately responsible for it, is it social services that are ultimately responsible for this program?
So it's a conjunction of social services staff and I believe staff from Rosewood House that are organizing the facility. So I hate to spew rhetoric to everybody here in this room, but to directly address your concerns about community spread, we have to say, obviously, when you're out in public, period, try to maintain 6 feet distance from people at all times. Make sure you're wearing a face covering or some sort of face protection, as well as sanitize and wash your hands and limit your contact on surfaces. Regardless of whether or not this shelter is downtown, there are people walking downtown who could be asymptomatic or who could be, not taking precautions. And it is our responsibility to take care of ourselves as much as it is everyone else's responsibility to take care of themselves. Just be careful out there, guys. I'm sure you all are working. That's why we're all here. So if you're out and you're doing anything with the public, just stay back. 6 feet, wear a face covering. I know you want to hug people. I have to stop myself every day from hugging people, but we'll get through this if we just hunker down.
Thank you, Councillor Wall. All right. Seeing no further comments, thank you very much for that. 6.4, development updates. We received a communication from the city regarding a virtual neighborhood meeting. Annette, do you have any other comments regarding the developments? Any news, either Annette or Councillor Wall?
No, I attached it to the agenda package. I will say this is another huge development for the downtown, which includes 2 11-story towers for a total of 16 stories, 10 street townhouse dwellings, commercial uses at street level, plus some amenity space at for the residential buildings, 1 level of underground parking, and 4 levels of parking above grade. Market Street is changing in a huge way. So,
Welcome changes they are. Councillor Wall?
So we're talking about the meeting that Annette and I just attended, yeah? Okay, so I thought that they did a really great presentation. There were a few members of the community who came out, asked some really great questions. A couple of things I want to comment on. They were excited and eager to work together with the people of the downtown to make sure that this was a project that everybody could be happy with and proud of. Maybe Annette has it handy, but one of the things I was very excited to hear was that they are dedicating a portion of the apartment units to go into the, to make them affordable for people. I don't know what the exact science behind it is, but they're going to be working with social services to have a element of affordable housing in there, which I think is just not something they are obligated to do, but something that they want to do. And I think that's going to make a huge difference. And I gotta tell you, I think it's 200 apartment units. That's going to mean a lot to the downtown businesses. That's going to mean a lot to the local restaurants that are there and the storefronts. And you mean just that many more people in the core, it's going to be great. And I hope, I don't speak on behalf of them, but they are eager for your feedback and for your comments on what they're doing. And I would have liked to have seen more people there, but I understand that, maybe some people still didn't know it was happening or whatnot, but this still has to come to council. There'll have to be all sorts of conversations, and there'll be lots of opportunities to have your voice heard. But at the end of the day, they seem like pretty good people who want to bring a really high quality project to the downtown core. And as Annette said, it is transforming Market Street, hopefully for the better. And it's pretty exciting stuff, I gotta tell you, especially because if you follow what's happening across the street, awesome.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Any further comments on this? No? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our subcommittee liaison reports and updates. Brooke?
Hi, thank you. Just a quick update from the Students' Union. The Students' Union will be aligning our closure policies with the university. So the Students' Union will close on December 24th, and we will reopen on January 6th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brooke. Councillor Wong.
So a question for Brooke, because I get this question all the time, and maybe the information's handy and I just don't have it. How many students does Laurier have in Brantford right now? Like physically in Brantford?
We don't have exact numbers of students in Brantford just because it is hard to gather information about students who are living off campus. Beth would probably have a better number of students in residence, but last I heard it was upwards of 100, I believe. But I'm sure Beth could give a better answer.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
Do you want me to, Madam Chair, do you want me to
Yes, go
elaborate
ahead.
on that? So Brooke is basically giving the same answer I could. That's our big struggle with remote learning is people can physically be anywhere in the world right now. So we can't really get a good capture on how many off-campus students we have, but the just over 100 number for in residence downtown is accurate. We do know, I'm surprised more often than not how many students we interact with. My team does a lot of the proactive web stories and that kind of thing, that you're talking to a student for a story and you find out that they have moved here. I think it just, you know, the whole experience has been tampered enough for them. A lot of students have still decided to live near where they're learning, even if they're not in the classroom. So, and I'm not sure what the case is with Conestoga, but that's the best, unfortunately, the best answer I can give right now.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you. Karen, do you know how many Conestoga?
Unfortunately, we don't. Right now, we have many students taking remote learning on throughout the world, to be honest. I can tell you we have quite a few students, probably over 100 at the airport because of the trades that's going on and all that activity. But unfortunately, I see them in the community. I see them at Walmart working, but I don't know how many are actually here.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Thank you, Brooke and Beth. All right. Now 7.2. I didn't know if Chief Davis, if you're still with us, are there any more updates for the community?
I'm not sure what's going on with my video. It's not cooperating, but yesterday we presented to the Brantford Police Services Board our budget request for 2021. It was approved with one of the exciting items I'm looking forward to are special constables for the downtown. So I know a number of you have heard me talk about, I see policing as a continuum. I like to use the airline industry as a comparison, or pro sports, the NHL. That, you know, the regular officers are the NHL. The special constables become our AHL, a feeder league, if you will, developmental league. Our auxiliaries are the OHL, and my Citizens on Patrol and other volunteer groups are my AAA midget. And so I see it as a continuum, or in a more realistic application, as I compare it to the aviation industry, is you don't start out flying, you know, the Dreamliner or the 787. You start out flying a Pilatus PC-12 or a King Air. Or before that, you're in a Piper learning your license. But I see that evolution in the aviation industry very similar to policing, that I struggle with people assuming and that the standard being you come into this job and you're a regular cop. I think we need to slow that down and make it more of a progression. One, so that we're creating career pathways for people. And in the Brantford Police Service, a priority for me is to reflect the diversity of the city. And the reality of that is there are some groups in the city that don't trust the police. And so we have to work on that and create those opportunities. But the other piece of this is then you have to prove what you're worth. And so that's what I like is the special constable rank. If we get them the authorities to address a lot of the issues downtown, a lot of the issues you're dealing with downtown, I don't need a 10-year cop making $100,000 a year with all this experience. I need those people to go and solve my gang shootings. What I do need is the people that are graduating out of post-secondary in their early 20s or whatever the age is, and that they want to show that they deserve to get on the 787 or play in the NHL, and that they will concentrate on those issues you're dealing with because that's their job. And so I'm really, really excited that the board passed this yesterday. There'll be some pushback from the association that they're going to dispute if it can be utilized, but it's working as we speak. You see the Laurier Special Constables, this would be a beefed up version of that. You see it happening in Cobourg, Ontario with an astounding success, and it's happening every day in Toronto with the Toronto Community Housing Authority Special Constables, and they do an absolutely incredible job in the Community Housing Authority areas, dealing with very, very complex issues with a lot of the big city problems. So I'm confident this will be a success, and I'm really happy the board passed it. Now the pressure's on City Council to accept all of that they passed. That's the big hint, hint, Councillor Wall, if you, that we look forward to the budget going to the city. So I'm really excited about it.
Thank you. Councillor Wall?
Yeah, sorry, Chief Davis and I have talked about this before, and I've heard him speak, so I just wanted to maybe prompt him to talk about one other thing that I've always liked he said. Back in the day, I've heard rumors and I've heard stories of how, you know, the officers and the constables who were working in neighborhoods just took this immense pride in the neighborhoods that they patrolled. And if you speak to any of our beat officers, you know, they love our downtown. They're a part of our downtown. They are our downtown. And I hope that this program that he has is going to have a sense that, you know, if you're the constable assigned to Eagle Place, or you're the constable assigned to East Ward or Echo Place, that everybody in that neighborhood knows your name. You know, they're going to see you at Sobeys. They're going to see you at the barber shop. They're going to see you at the Tim Hortons or the Coffee Culture, and they're going to wave and say hi. And it's going to have this sense of community and camaraderie. And sorry, Chief Davis, I'm trying to prompt you to say this kind of stuff, but I really think the idea of having, you know, boots on the ground, recognizable people working in the community it's going to do a lot for the optics and the, you know, moral support along with actual physical support. Is that correct? Perhaps.
Yes, absolutely. That's the intent. Actually, I may have solved my camera issues. Just stand by 1 second. Nope, I lied. I didn't. But that is the intent. Is that there'll be this ownership. There was a time in policing here in the city, as well as many jurisdictions. You'll hear it referred to as zone policing, and the academics have researched this to death about does it work, doesn't it work? I believe it works because exactly what Councillor Wall is saying is you have this sense of pride and ownership that you are assigned to this geographical area, and you know who the merchants are, you know who the people are. You know, and every one of you live this in your own neighborhoods. You know when something's out of place. You know it. You know it. You know it. You know it. And that's the fundamentals of zone policing. Is that you have the officers there for a period of time so that they get to know the neighborhood, get to know the businesses, the people, and then they know when something's out of place, and then they're able to address that. And so really this is going back to the fundamentals of policing, which is interesting because we're a very, very young police service. And what you're seeing is, and I was guilty of this too when I was in my early 20s, you know, you want to chase that sexy call. You want to go to the gun call. You want to go to the knife call. You want to go to the bar fight when there was bar fights. There's no bar fights anymore, but you know, but you always wanted to go to those fun calls, the sexy calls, where the action is. And because it's a byproduct, and we're not alone in this is happening across Canada as we see the baby boom leave and the attrition happening in young police services across this country. But that sense of pride in owning a zone is diminished because of that. So this is a step in the right direction to get us back to those fundamentals of policing, take pride in owning a zone and knowing it so that we also know when something's out of the ordinary, and that you, the citizens and the businesses, have the trust in us to come and approach and say, hey, you know, that vehicle there normally doesn't sit there. There's something not right here. So It's all about building trust and community engagement.
Thank you so much, Chief Davis. I will do whatever I can to support that vision, because that is what I grew up in a small community, and I remember that's the way that it was. And yeah.
Thank you. Carrie, did you have a question, comment?
Yes, I was just wondering about the Citizens on Patrol program. I think I see that it's started up again, and I was just wondering how that's progressing, whether that's being increased or what kind of coverage is being done with that program.
Yeah, absolutely. It's back. We had to suspend training because of COVID. We're now past that. We've cleared out. We have an area here called our physical training area. It's basically a huge garage. And so because of that, we are able to space out and operate within the exemptions we're given as a police service for training, that we were able to get our new batch of recruits, if you will, for the Citizens on Patrol in here. And I'm also expanding their mandates. So I don't know where it happened, but they were over time they've degenerated to being just patrolling the vehicles. And I question that because there's similar groups across the country where you see them very proactively out there on foot. And that does, again, the academics have researched this. You see it runs in Winnipeg, it runs in Vancouver, I ran it in Lethbridge, where it does help in that continuum of public safety, where their visibility helps. And so I've expanded their role to being out on foot in the downtown Eagle Place. We're starting in Ward 5. There's other places they're going, but I've asked for a pronounced foot presence, if they're able to recognize it's a split. It's about 60% young people that are trying to get into law enforcement or test the waters. 40% are retirees. And so walking for a few hours may not fit them. So for them, we've encouraged them to be in the van, but those that can, we've encouraged they be on foot. Similarly, we've brought back our auxiliary and we're getting them trained up to standard, and we're in the process of expanding that program to 50 auxiliary constables with a directed foot patrol presence in Ward 5.
And the Citizens on Patrol, is there, like you said, you want them to concentrate certain areas. I know before how it worked is the person would volunteer and just say, okay, I'm coming Monday from 6 to 8 and I'll patrol Eagle Place. It was almost like they got to choose where they want to patrol. Is there any more organization in that sense?
Yeah, so Sergeant Jordy Schmutz, he's working. I talk to Jordy pretty well every morning. Again, it boils down to what a person's capabilities are. So if we're dealing with a retiree who's not comfortable leaving their neighborhood, we'll honor that. But we do identify sort of areas where it's been made clear to us they'd like to see a presence. And so it's more directed.
Good, that's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May, go ahead.
No, I was just wondering, the Citizens on Patrol, are they recognizable? Do they wear a uniform? Like if they're out there, do we know that it's them?
It's bright fluorescent yellow, and it has Citizens on Patrol written on it. And they also have vests that they can wear over their jackets as the weather gets colder. They had ball hats, and I'm trying to equip them with toots and stuff for all seasons so that they are recognizable, but I want to do what we can to amplify that.
Any further questions of Chief Davis? No, I'd just like to make a comment, Chief Davis, is that just to let you know that the RBIA has sent a letter to council, to Mayor and members of council supporting your budget. Okay. All right. Seeing nothing else, we'll go on to 7.3 City Council updates. Councillor Wall.
I think Dwight has something to say.
I think Dwight has something to say.
I wonder if we could make a change and let Karen Towler. She has to leave early, so at 9. So wonder if she could give her update there.
Yes, thank you, Dwight. Go ahead, Karen. If everyone agrees. Anyone disagree? No, we're good. Go ahead, Karen.
Thank you very much, Dwight and Barb. I'd like to tell you that Conestoga is functioning both presently in Brantford as well as virtually. We still have activity happening in the ECE and at the airport. We are wrapping up this term. Next week is exams, and then the next term will be starting on January 18th. We have been recognized by IRCC as a recognized institution that has strong pandemic plans in place for any student who, international student who wants to travel to start their program here within Canada. And we are now waiting on many students to obtain their visas and then come to Canada for study in January, and then self-isolate and do what they require to start their programs. We are very strong in supporting our faculty and students and ensuring their safety, and also maintaining the quality of our education during these challenging times. But we are still functioning and doing well.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor Wall, would you like to carry on with the city updates?
Yeah, I mean, we've covered a lot of stuff that was relevant. I mean, Annette does a really great job of making sure you guys are kept in the loop, and I think we talked about some of the major things. I mean, we talked about it here at the council, or sorry, at the committee. So I guess the motion Councillor Van Tilburg made about to the Brant County Health Unit about the needles went through. So I guess the time is on for them to come back to us with a report. So I believe they were given 30 days. So I'm hoping they'll come back with a master plan to fix all the problems with needles in this community. But you know, stay tuned for more information on that. And then I think Gagan is going to talk more about the downtown revitalization and that. So I won't spoil or ruin her time. But if you have any questions, call me, text me, email me anytime. I look forward to talking to y'all.
And Annette has a question, and then Dwight.
Can you just give a bit of an update about council last night about the request for expressions of interest for the south side? I'm not sure if everybody's aware of what's going on there.
Hey, yeah, okay, sorry, thank you. That's a good one. So, you know, when you cross the Lorne Bridge to go into the downtown, there's that like pie-shaped area of land that's owned by the city between, like on the opposite side of where the crepes and waffle place was, that big empty plot of land. So that's city land. And they basically have decided, this wasn't my project, but Councillor Van Tilburg and myself and the mayor are all going to be a part of it, that instead of offering that land up for sale, we're going to basically go out and put it a call to developers or artists or like financial organizations or nonprofits or, you know, whatever, and say, look, we have an idea to build this landmark attraction in this area. What do you got? Let's do something stunning. Let's do something beautiful, like our own Statue of Liberty type deal. Like just make it this, as soon as you enter into the downtown, just wow. And we're hoping that people will, you know, come at us with all sorts of crazy ideas for architectural marvels. So, you know, like maybe some sort of like awesome glass sculpture, or not sculpture, but like a building. So it's still got to get fleshed out. The mayor is really excited about this. I mean, I'm excited about it. Councillor Van Tilburg seemed excited about it as well. It was a great kind of conversation, but like, it's kind of like our welcome to downtown. And how cool would it be to have this really amazing thing there versus just an empty lot? So I think that kind of covers it. I mean, we don't really have, there's nothing happening right now. It still has to get ratified by council at the end of the month. So there might be still more discussion about it. And this is I actually didn't get to ask the question last night and I meant to. I don't know if we've ever done this before. So there might be some things to like kinks to work out. I see Gagan kind of making some facial expressions there. She might know something about this. Maybe she doesn't, I don't know, but it's kind of cool. It's very cool, actually.
Thank you, Councillor Wall. Dwight, did you still have a question?
Yeah, it's to the prior, Joshua, or the Councillor Wall's response on that needle. So is there a solution coming forward in that report, say for a safe consumption site to be built in there? Or is that what we're waiting on for the report to council for the needles?
It seems everywhere I go, people ask me about the safe consumption site. So I will say what I say all the time, and forgive again the rhetoric, but that conversation is going to be happening, but it is not entirely just a municipal conversation. Like, it's not just a council decision. There has to be an organization who's willing to take that and run with it. I need to know, maybe this is something that should be on our agenda. I need to know if that's something that the BIA supports or doesn't support as a unified body. But then I also need to know individually as my constituents or representatives of organizations that are in the downtown core, what your opinions are. Because the people of Eagle Place, for example, are torn, whether they want a safe consumption site or they don't want a safe consumption site. And I have no formal stance on it. You know, I see the merits, I've seen it in other communities, and I know that it's coming. This conversation is coming. And I don't know if there's any stopping it. And ultimately, what I think is going to be the most important part of the safe consumption site conversation is, where is it located? What are the impacts of where it's located going to be? And what is the city and its partners going to be doing to make sure that if something like this does come to the community, there's just a lot of what ifs. But to directly answer your question, I have no idea what the health unit is going to propose. But I do know that, and everyone here is well aware, the needle situation in this community is out of control. There are too many reports of people finding needles in the most awkward places. And I hope that, you know, there is a remedy coming. And I'm going to support anything that gets needles off the street.
Okay. Dwight, second question.
I understand there. Thank you, Councillor Wall, on that reply there. But I think the whole thing is educating people, because a lot of people have the mistaken impression we're just promoting drug use and needles and that. So it all boils down to education, I believe, and it's the fear of things. But we have to do something to help the community, keep it safe and move it along. So that's all I'll say. Okay.
Almost leave. Sorry, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Oh, okay, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did we just lose quorum, Annette? Your microphone's off.
Same old bullshit.
Yes, we've lost quorum.
Okay.
How long? Sorry.
Well, did you have something to say, Councillor Wall?
I was asking Annette how long we can continue to operate once we lost quorum.
Oh, we're done. As soon as you lose quorum, you're done. The meeting's over.
It's unfortunate, but I have to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, yeah.
We have lost quorum. I am so sorry. I'm going to take it off recording.
Okay, can we get a mover and seconder to adjourn?
Yes.
I'll move it.
Wait. Carrie, all in favor? Who's left? Okay, carried. Okay.